Good morning, Wabash. Speaking today at Pioneer Chapel is a student panel from the Malcolm X Institute of Black Studies with their talk titled 28 Days of Acceptable Blackness, Black History is History. Speaking in order for the MXI will be James Love III, Willie Gupton Jr., Andrew Young, Alan Johnson Jr., and Kenny Coleman. James Love III is a junior at Wabash College, majoring in art and minoring in creative writing. Love is a native of Indianapolis, Indiana, where he attended Pike High School. Currently, James serves as the secretary at the Malcolm X Institute of Black Studies. A fun fact about James is that he is the second oldest out of 7 children. Willie Gupton Jr. is a native of Indianapolis, Indiana, where he attended Warren Central High School. He majors in economics and double minors in Black Studies and Spanish. At Wabash, Willie is involved with the football team and track and field teams. He is also a member of the African Students Association and is co-chair for the academic committee at the MXI. Andrew Young is a senior here at Wabash College and has been a member of the MXI for all 4 years he has been here. During his sophomore and junior years, he has served as the associateship chair and co-chair. Andrew is also a 3-year letter winner in track and field, earning all conference and all region for his role in Wabash's 4x400 meter relay. Young is a religion major and philosophy minor, wanting to study these subjects in order to broaden his horizons and be better at seeing issues from other angles that people may not consider. Andrew is still deciding on what he wants to do after school, but knows one thing for sure, that he wants to be a great leader in the community and inspire the people of his generation to get into politics, believing that it is our world to change now. Alan Johnson Jr. is a psychology major and a Black Studies minor, who was born and raised on the west side of Indianapolis. He is a member of the Wabash golf team, the Malcolm X Institute of Black Studies, the Mental Health Concerns Committee, and many other clubs around campus. Alan's hobbies include hanging out with family, friends, and eating food. A fun fact about Alan is that he did musical theater in high school and is an avid Hamilton fan. Kenny Coleman is a native of Muncie, Indiana, where he attended Muncie Central High School. Kenny majors in rhetoric with a minor in Black Studies. He is involved with the Mental Health Concerns Committee, and he is also the chairman of the Malcolm X Institute of Black Studies. And aside from all that, he also plays Wabash football, and he's a part of the Wabash track and field team. Kenny's favorite pastime is cutting hair and spending time with his roommates, Jackson and Dustin, as well as hanging out with his friends at the MXI. A fun fact about Kenny is that his favorite movie is Pulp Fiction. Ready?
You know, it's funny, I actually had all of this planned out and written down, but I forgot it at my room. So, we're gonna be winging this again, just bear with me. Oh, God. You know, when I told my mom I was gonna be doing this chapel talk, she had only one piece of advice. Don't get angry. And that really got me thinking. That took me back for a minute. Yo, don't get me wrong, it was funny, but thinking about it, why should I have to quell my anger for something I'm passionate in? Why should I have to quell my blackness for somebody to be comfortable? Why should I have to lessen myself just so that people don't hate me in the long run? And I think, in all honesty, that's a really stupid thought. So if I get angry, again, bear with me, it's not personal, it's just a chapel talk. And that leads me into another thing. Why is blackness equal to being lesser than? This is a talk about Black history, right? 28 days of acceptable blackness. So why is blackness, or Black history in itself, an unjust uphill battle? Let me explain. Does anybody else have to train their younger generation on how to, act around a cop? Show of hands. Don't be shy. We got a couple people up here. I expected that. Does anybody else have to look their baby brother in the eye that's not even a year old yet and plan on what to tell him Like, hey, the people that are supposed to protect you, the people that are supposed to be your friends, your neighbors, your teachers, your friends, look at you differently because of the way your skin is. These, like literally everybody else has an opinion of you that is automatically bad. These people do not exercise restraint because you're black. They will kill you if they get the chance. Do not give them that chance. I don't want to say that to my future children, because I plan on having children one day when I'm like 40. But another thing that got me thinking is the unfair uphill battle also includes the fact that throughout all of Black history, yes, there were highlights, yes, there were innovators, revolutionaries, all of them. But tell me why most of my history starts in this country. Why doesn't it start where my people came from? Why doesn't it start where my ancestors came from? I know nothing of my heritage, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people in here know their ancestry like it's the back of their hand. I know nothing. Imagine how that must feel. Even try. Just try to imagine how that feels. It's like a sense of amnesia. This anger that my mother was talking about comes from generations of being torn from our homeland, rape, pillaging, murder, enslavement, running, fighting, marching, dying. So much struggle, death, and fear. I don't want to die. I don't want this to be the last time any of you see me and see my face on a TV screen saying, hey, new local Black kid got shot, woohoo! I don't want that. I've done so much in my life. I've proved so much to so many people, and I keep proving myself. Why, I'll never know. But I don't want that to be the last thing people see of me. An obituary. Way too early in my life. I want to live. I want to have the experiences literally everyone else in this room has. I want that. I want the white picket fence at the end of the day because I'm human. Yes, I'm Black. Yes, I'm a Black man. Yes, I'm a gay Black man in America, but I want my happy ending. I deserve that. It's like Martin Luther King said, I'm tired of marching for something that should have been mine at birth. I'll say that again. I'm tired of marching for something that should have been mine at birth. I don't care about what everyone else thinks. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of just having all this energy and not being able to use any of it because I have to remain cool, calm, and collected to keep everyone else's comfortability in check. Bull. This is 2021, folks. I am quite tired. And you know, I agree completely with what Dr. King was saying. It's an unfair uphill battle because Black Lives Matter was a movement. Still is a movement. It's still going on, people. Even though the hashtag is not on Twitter currently, it's still a thing that's happening, and it's a thing that's relevant. As long as me, my other brothers, anybody from the MXI, anybody that looks like me, anybody that's a minority, it's still happening. Sorry it isn't trending, but it's happening. It's a movement, and it still is a movement because there are people fighting, marching, peacefully, I might add, for change, for a better world, for a world where somebody isn't judged based off their skin color, but on their character, how they treat people. Hell, even how they treat puppies if you're into that. But it's so unfair because see what happened this summer? A peaceful protest that got the military called on them. Why? Can anybody tell me why? Yes.
So that the 45th president may take a photo op in front of a church.
I'll take that answer. That's a very good answer. It's a BS answer, but it's true nonetheless. Completely disrespectful. A peaceful protest meant to be equality for all, and then get the military and the police to get called on them. With rubber bullets and pepper spray, men, women, and the elderly. I saw a woman that was in her 90s and lived through the frickin' civil rights movement getting pepper spray aimed at her, and people had to move out of the way and move her out of the way. Ridiculous. You're trying to injure somebody that's the age of your grandmother, if not your great-grandmother, and for what? A quota? But yet we have domestic terrorists storming the Capitol, and the same police are taking selfies with them, helping them down the steps when they have pepper spray in their eyes, helping them with water bottles to pour into their eyes from said pepper spray. Just scrolling on Twitter, minding my business, seeing all of these pictures. And for what? An unfair uphill battle is because there's a double standard. Would you take marching for peace or throwing a tantrum? All this can be yours on The Price is Right. I'd rather march for my freedom, my life, the life of my brothers, the life of my future children, the life of my siblings, my family, my mother. Any one of us could be gone in the blink of an eye. What will you do then? Black history to me is a very patronizing event. We're celebrated through the shortest month of the year, by only a few, don't get me wrong, revolutionaries, but it's only that few. The few you always hear about. But yet, every other month in the year, we're target practice. We're beaten, we're bruised, we're mocked, we're looked at, we're side-eyed. Do you know how many side eyes I get a year? At this point, I've lost count. Through 1 week, in the start of 2021, I have lost count. That's the unfair uphill battle. And Wabash, I leave you with this. Think critically, act responsibly, lead effectively, and live humanely. Think critically about who you put on a pedestal, about who you listen to. And think about whether or not you want to act responsibly and be a Wabash man that fights for change. Be a Wabash man that these professors, these teachers, that everybody here trains us to be. To go against the status quo and finally do something right in this world that's wronged me and my ancestors for centuries. And other minorities that get crapped on. Then lead the newer generations effectively on how they can be better than us and the generations that came before us. About how they can think critically ahead about whether what's right and what's wrong. And then live humanely and treat your fellow man regardless of race, gender, or gender identity, sex, or religion. Treat them with love and compassion. And don't be someone who's an undercover racist, if I do say plainly. quite tired. And trust me, I can smell that from a mile away. So, when you think back on this talk, I want you to think back on just being better. Be better. Be better than anybody in the office or offices. The president, be better. We have all the time in the world, but we need to start being better now. There's no time. So, thank you, Wabash, and happy Black History Month. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna get right into it. Black history is right in front of you. You like us as athletes, y'all even like our music, but as soon as we get into politics, y'all treat us like we stupid. I just want a better world for my future son or my future daughter. You know the system is messed up, but you don't even bother. Put yourself in my shoes. You'd be afraid one day to be a father. Black people just want to prosper. But let's talk about the flag again. If you were me, you wouldn't even stand up, man. Before you even say it, I was named after a veteran. They never found his body, dude. He was a POW. I saw Cap kneel and figured I should too. Because my great uncle fought for a world that didn't include, you know. In every American war, we had black soldiers, dude. In every American war, we had black soldiers, dude. Yes, I'm talking revolutionary and even civil. Black people have been nothing, but you expect us to stay civil after choking a black father. That was just evil. Black people have been nothing but adept, even in the face of threats or facing certain death. We always did what was best. What we get for that? Just debt. Cycles and cycles of debt. And then we sit around and think about why kids at school feel they have to turn to theft. But the way things are going, Black history just says we ain't seen nothing yet. Let's talk about these protests, the ones in which they tried to harm us. You might say we started drama, but I just saw innocent people with their arms up. You're not American if you thought these issues ended with Obama. Police this summer didn't have the guts to alarm us. But Black history says that this is just a trend. As long as it's Black people, this treatment will never end. You can hoot and holler and raid the Capitol as long as you're not them. By them, I mean Black people, because if we pulled that, we'd never be seen again. The problem is we don't want to correct the issues created by politicians like Nixon. You know the system needs fixing. We continue to lock young Black men up. That's just chicken. What's the point of Black history if America never learns its lesson? And if you acting like you don't know what I mean, well, just listen. Black voters stepped up this year and won America a damn election. Whole time we faced voter suppression. Those barriers are only being strengthened. Our democracy needs protection. A real patriot wouldn't let this happen. Black history is right in front of you, Willie. That's right. These patriots never take action unless it's Black people reacting. Matter of fact, they'd rather catch us lacking, like the FBI did for Ed Hampton. What does America have against Black women? We ain't got a single one in Senate. But that's just Black history. I guess I'm just a witness. I never understood how a country of wealth has people that can't afford to take care of their health. They'd rather let them melt. But don't worry, we'll build ourselves up, with or without your help. Man, maybe my pain isn't felt. COVID hit this year and Black people just work harder. Politicians, like usual, too worried about how well America could barter. It hit our community the hardest, but we never faltered. But Black history is right in front of you, Willie. For 5 whole years, an entire Black community didn't have clean water. Black people don't want to be ahead, bro. We just want to catch up. Knee on our neck, America hasn't let up. For some reason, every February, they tell us to be happy slavery ended in 1865. Well, look at the school to prison pipeline. Look it up right now. You'd be surprised. It really wasn't sublime. Even worse, no one was charged with the crime. Well, now what, Willie? It's time you do something, because history says you won't. You'll keep watching Black people kicking and punching, and for whatever reason, you'll sit by and do nothing. Because when it comes to human rights, not civil rights, you know Black people not budging. Black history is right in front of you. It's time this country stops running.
Good morning, Wabash. In order to give my other two brothers room to talk, I'm going to shorten my speech a little bit. So if I pause a little bit trying to pick it apart, please stay with me. Like James, I also told my mom I was going to give this chapel talk. And when she first talked to me about it, she was talking about how my first one seemed like I was just the stereotypical angry black man. You know, I hate America, I hate white people, all this other thing. And she told me not to be angry this time. But when I told her my topic and I was going to be talking about how black history makes me feel, she automatically assumed I was just going to be that angry black man again. But the thing is, thinking about black history brings a whole bunch of complicated emotions to me. It brings hope, yet hopelessness. Strength, yet fear. Hope, and doubt. On every night on February 1st, about an hour before I go to bed, I listen to Mortal Man by Kendrick Lamar. And the chorus goes something like this. The ghost of Mandela, hope my flows stay propelling. Let these flows be your earth and moon, you consume every message. As I lead this army, make room for mistakes and depression. And with that said, let me ask you this question. When shit hits the fan, is you still a fan? Essentially what he's saying in this song is, he understands that his voice has power, and that, like Mandela, and like all black leaders, we all have unlimited time on this earth. And so he wants to make sure that his words live on. But he also wants you guys to know that he's human, and that at the end of the day, everybody's human. We're all going to make mistakes, no matter the heights that you hold this man to. And along with this struggle, as you grow older and you learn, you begin to find how depressing black history can be sometimes. And that depression becomes a weight on your shoulders that eventually a lot of people can collapse to. So he just wants you to know that through all his pain, all his struggles, and if he ends up collapsing, will you leave him or will you stay with him? And so that always gets me thinking about just how hopeless black history seems to be sometimes. We have events such as the Tulsa Massacre, which happened in 1921, where you had a whole black community basically wiped out because white residents didn't seem to agree with their way of life. They didn't like the economic prosperity that they had. And so they felt like it was their right and their duty to take revenge on the African-American community. There's also Latasha Harlins, a black girl who, prior to the LA riots, was shot by a Korean store owner because she was accused of stealing orange juice. Mind you, she had given the orange juice back already and was walking out the store when she was shot in the back of her head. All these stories just seem to create this hopeless picture of our cause in America. But there's a quote from James Baldwin that I always come back to in times like this. If I could find it. Okay, I got it. I can't be a pessimist because I am alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I am forced to be an optimist. I am forced to believe that we can survive. Whatever, we must survive. And it is this that I hope we take with us in black history. To my brothers in the MXI and future black leaders, this is what we owe to our ancestors. Despite all the struggles, despite all the hardships that they had to go through, leaders such as James Baldwin, Malcolm X, Angela Davis, Assata Shakur, and countless others gave their lives and decided to be optimists in the struggle for black liberation. So I understand that it can get hard sometimes, and that oftentimes our situation may seem hopeless. We have to look back at history and use it as a way to encourage ourselves. Black history is something that's supposed to be empowering. It's a tool for learning tactics, gaining knowledge, and essentially unity. And we owe it to our ancestors in the face of hardships to keep on pushing through and keep on surviving. I would like to end with a quote from the great Dr. King. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. I say this to let you all know that throughout Black history, throughout our struggle, the most important thing isn't that we accomplish our goals, it's that we make progress. At the end of the day, it's our turn to run this race and use the baton and advance our position so that when we hand off the baton to our next brother, that he is in better position to lead the cause. Thank you all for your time, and remember, Black Lives Matter.
Good morning, Wabash. 28 days out of the year, these United States of America give African Americans a month to celebrate. Cool. Celebrate a history that is American history, but has to be specified as Black. As if Black people haven't been marginalized enough, we have to be given this 28-day window when it's acceptable to celebrate American history. Well, let me name off some African American historical figures from this country, and you tell me if 28 days is enough to learn about them. Robert Abbott, Alvin Ailey, Crispus Attucks, Richard Allen, Maya Angelou, Ella Baker, James Baldwin, Mary McLeod Bethune, Shirley Chisholm, Carter G. Woodson, Dr. Charles Drew, W.E.B. Du Bois, Duke Ellington, Aretha Franklin, Jimi Hendrix, Jesse Jackson, Katherine Johnson, Quincy Jones, Langston Hughes, Thurgood Marshall, Fred Hampton, Sidney Poitier, Ida B. Wells, Jesse Owens, August Wilson, Claudette Colvin, Madam C.J. Walker, and Gordon Parks. That's 28 figures. Now think for a second. Some of us might know who these people are, and some of us may not. But just imagine trying to learn one of these people one day during February. With the information and everything these Black figures did, your brain will enter what I call IOM, information overload mode. And that's only 28 figures. So why is it that 28 days out of the year in elementary, middle, and high school, we were forced to abide by this rule of studying 28 days of Black history, and that is only acceptable during February? And I guarantee we all learned about the same starting five. Starting in the backcourt, our Splash Sisters, Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman. In the front court, Muhammad Ali and Frederick Douglass. In our all-star wing, Martin Luther King Jr. And most of us spent 13 years of our pre-adult lives talking about the same five figures. Out of 4,745 days, most of us learned about five figures. That's one figure every 949 days. And after the year 2020, what is there to celebrate? Do I have to put on this facade that I'm happy about 28 days? And if the history that ruffles some of the feathers in America's higher up, the education decides to eliminate them from history like Malcolm X or Nat Turner, why do we only celebrate 28 days of people who have a 365-day effect on our lives? I mean, we don't celebrate, we shouldn't have to celebrate 28 days of 365-day effect. I mean, we don't use light bulbs 28 days out of the year, but shout out to my guy, Lewis Latimer. We don't only drive our cars by 3-color stop traffic lights, but, we can shout out Garrett Morgan, too. We don't open elevators up by ourselves, but I'm going to shout out Alexander Miles just because he deserves his flowers. And I know, I just know, y'all don't eat potato chips only 28 days out of the year. At least I don't, you feel me? I'm a fat boy at heart. So shout out George Crumb. So you tell me why I should be happy. And I stand before you today in a hoodie, some jeans, and some Air Maxes, because that's how you would see me outside of this chapel, humbly. The same person that is trying to educate my Wabash brothers. So let's abolish this thought that we should only celebrate Black history during the month of February. Black history doesn't just have a 28-day and maybe an occasionally 29-day effect on us. And I could go on and on about how Black History Month has been marginalized in American culture and the fact that we have to be separated from American history, but I digress. My focus is on this campus today. What is Wabash doing to support Black American history, our Black American history? Does it have to come down to taking a Black Studies class or joining the MXI? How many more talks do students and faculty have to put on for us students of Wabash to promote Black historical figures outside of the month of February? Is it just another thing that we leave outside of our mental history books because there's just not enough space up there and I'm gathering too much information? Okay. Is it something that we promote every single day? So today I ask you to join me in accepting Black history outside of the month of February. And maybe as a Wabash community, we'll be one step closer to thinking critically, acting responsibly, leading effectively, and ultimately living humanely. Thank you.
I can't be a pessimist because I am alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So I am forced to be an optimist. I am forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive. James Baldwin. In September 1915, almost half a century after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States, Carter G. Woodson and Minister Jesse E. Moreland founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. This organization was dedicated to researching and promoting achievements by Black Americans and people of African descent. This group, founded by Woodson and Moreland, will begin sponsoring a National Negro History Week in 1926, choosing the second week of February. This week is significant because it lined up with the birthdays of both Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Not only did this event inspire schools and communities nationwide to begin celebrating and hosting lectures aimed at recognizing Black excellence, this week will turn into what we know now as Black History Month. With Black History Month finally being established in the late 1960s, this celebration would officially be cemented in American holidays. Considering the previous year in its unconventional nature, what do Black people have to celebrate? What's there to be happy about? For the past 12 months, the nation witnessed, again, firsthand, how horribly Black people are treated, and the insurrection against all Black movements was unbearable. I vividly recall being home during the last couple months of the 2020 spring semester, seeing the aftermath of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's deaths unfold before my very eyes. I remember thinking, are things ever going to get any better? Having to come back to this campus as a Black student was frustrating. Seeing the faces of my white classmates was hard. The only thing that I felt was anger and frustration that no one cared about what was happening in their country outside of the pandemic. Internally, I thought, Black folks will always be subjected to the back of the bus, even though Rosa fought that nation long ago. You don't know what it feels like to feel like you're suffocating and can't find help, even though everyone around you is CPR certified. I have been consumed by this presence of whiteness while trying to make way for my Black brothers. Some of you, rather than help, observe as I struggle to find peace. Implicitly, you just watch as I slowly wither away on the inside, losing my fight and my faith. But I'm reminded as a Christian that I must keep the faith and keep my mind stayed on Jesus, as my late grandmother would say. I'm reminded of her joyous spirit in times like these. She accepted things how they were and put her trust in her Lord and Savior. I think maybe it's time I do the same. As James Baldwin said in the earlier quote, I can't be a pessimist because I am alive. As you sit and think, what does this have to do with Black History Month? Just wait and I will tell you. Black History Month, as grateful as I am for it, has proven itself during my lifetime to be another vehicle of oppression for white folks. Yes, it was founded by a Harvard-educated Black man as well as a man of the gospel, but white folks have consumed it and now use it as a metaphorical leash around the necks of Black folks. As others have stated before me, why should I only celebrate my Blackness for 1 month, a month that is actually 28 days? I'm a Black man every day of the year, and that is something I won't ever be able to escape. And you may be thinking, this isn't how an optimist thinks. That's what you may be telling yourself in your mind. It's really not, but for me, Black History Month presents me with a challenge to normalize the year-round celebration of Black excellence. And this is where I find the significance of Black History Month in my life, at least this time around. Nonetheless, I find comfort in celebrating my Blackness, being happy about waking up Black, gracing others with my presence, never forgetting that to be Black is a privilege. I come from royalty. My ancestors were kings and queens before they slaved for the white man. Despite the continuous war we fight against systemic oppression and racism, Black folks are the foundation of the United States. Nobody would not drive safely if not for a Black man. Black people have access to cosmetics specifically for us because of a Black woman. Black music is great. In my opinion, we have the best cookouts and family gatherings. There's nothing like doing the electric slide on the dance floor, surrounded by your aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and contently enjoying being a Black person in America. Even though it makes me feel some type of way, Black History Month reminds me of the great things that Black folks have to offer this world and not the other way around. To conclude, I would like to leave you all with a little poem that I wrote. Unlike some of my classmates and brothers in the Institute, poetry is not my forte. However, I feel it is a viable way to speak what's on the mind of an individual. So without further delay, I present to you Will I by Kenny Coleman. Will I ever find that light at the end of the tunnel that continues on and on and on, with no hopes of ever ending? Should I lose hope in searching for that light, forgetting that there's something sweeter on the other side of this pain, hurt, and sorrow? Will I ever see the brighter days, the times where you and me can live free, joyously enjoying the company of one another, as happy as we could be, living carefree in a world where melanin is just accepted? Will I ever see the day where my Black skin is not mistaken for a Black pistol, the weapon that my oppressor uses to kill me? How can it be that the same thing that I am mistakenly armed with is exactly what that cop is holding in his hand? If that badged imbecile would just look a little bit closer, he'd see that the only thing I'm armed with is my cell phone and fear, as if it is my safeguard, my lifeline from ending up like another Sandra or George or Philando. At this point, you can even insert my name, because even if I'm not dead, I'm just running on a hamster wheel trying to escape something that's inevitable when it's all said and done. Will I ever see the day where I'm not scared to live just as much as I'm scared to die? Die in this nation where the ones who swore to protect us are the ones who slay us down in the street as our mothers look in defeat at another life lost. And at what cost? To fulfill some inner superhero fantasy, where the reward is some pat on the back followed by some paid time off, when they should have their badge and gun snatched the same way they snatched my Black brothers and sisters' lives. Will I ever discover the true meaning of freedom? Because what's really free in a nation where everything comes at a cost? In this free world, where's my handout? How can I stand out when I'm 6 feet under the rest of my competition? All because they don't want to share a piece of the pie. Well, shoot, I like apple pie. I like sweet potato pie, and I like key lime pie too. But what's new? We may share a common interest, but because I'm here and they're there, I can never expect them to pick up the shovel and free me and help to free me of this cement hold of a setback, so that I can come back and take back what's yours, what's rightfully yours, mine, and ours. Or that's what they'll think we do. Our efforts are not based in revenge, and we don't want to avenge the lives lost that we witness every other week, like the 1st and the 15th. We just want to live and die with the thought in mind that we could level the playing field and compete for what's ours, as if a ball and a dream is the only way out for me, as if I can be no more than an athlete or a rapper. Will I ever see the days where Blacks and whites could live as Martin Luther King Jr. dreamed, where I'm not judged by how my skin looks, but by how I treat others, no matter how they look at me or no matter how they look like? Will I ever be able to live? Will I ever be able to look on the bright side? In my Black world, I see that light at the end of the tunnel because a Black man made it that way. Lewis Latimer, thank you for bringing out the sunshine on the darkest of my rainy days. Black people are the center of our salvation, In these words, I find my reason to smile. So when I see that my world is filled with Confederate flags and inklings of white supremacy, I remember that this nation is nothing without the contribution of black folks to the U.S. industry. There was no white without black, no U.S. without us, the flesh and blood of black folks. I look to the mountaintop and see King, and by any means, like Malcolm said, I will reach the promised land. And if you're willing, let's walk hand in hand. Together we could fix this. Together we could fix this. If you just put that pride to the side, pick up that shovel, bring a friend or two, help me discover freedom, true freedom, not that great value stuff. I want to experience what's true. Will I ever discover the true meaning of happiness in this world? That answer is up to you. Thank you.